The changing of the seasons is something I look forward to. The air sharpens, the trees begin their slow transformation, and the mornings arrive wrapped in silence and mist. Fall in the Pacific Northwest has a kind of presence to it. It rolls in with the clouds that settle over the hills, and the rivers rise with anticipation. The bite of the cold on your nose, the smell of wet earth, the dampness clinging to your jacket. These are the signals I trust more than any date on a calendar. This is a time of return. The salmon come back. Every autumn, they make their way from the open ocean to the streams and rivers they began. And whether or not you're standing in the water waiting for them, you feel their arrival. At the mouth of the river, where the saltwater of the Puget Sound meets the pull of fresh current, there's always a sense of crossroads. The water itself changes character. Salt begins to fade, giving way to the clean mineral bite of glacier-fed rivers. I don't linger long in the saltwater reaches, because the real story is upriver. That is where the fish press on, where the world feels less touched, less trampled. I remember my first salmon, not as a boy, but later, when I had already seen a few corners of the world, already carried my share of scars. I had a spinning rod, not a fly rod. I made a cast more by instinct than by practiced rhythm. The strike was sudden. The reel screamed, and I was pulled into something I didn't fully understand. My hands shook, my heart hammered, and when I finally dragged that fish to shore, I thought I had won something. What I didn't realize in that moment was that fish wasn't a conquest. It was an invitation. It was about being welcomed into a story that had been unfolding for thousands of years before I ever stepped into the current. That single fish didn't just feed me. It altered me. It whispered that if I kept returning, I might learn something worth knowing. Since then, it has become a ritual. Every fall, when the rivers begin to rise, I answer that call. Because it grounds me, this is how I mark the seasons. It isn't the page of a calendar or the buzz of a phone that tells me time has moved forward. It's the smell of the riverbank. It's the weight of the clouds. It's the surge of the salmon pushing inland, carrying the memory of the oceans in their flesh. Fishing for salmon is not about filling the freezers, though I do that too. It's about return, about standing in a place that feels alive with continuity, about acknowledging that my story is just one thread woven into something infinitely larger. Every river teaches a lesson. Channels shift from year to year. Gravel bars disappear under floods. Fallen trees create new pools. A bend that was perfect last year might be empty this year, while a backwater you ignored suddenly fills with life. As the old adage goes, you never step into the same river twice, and that change is part of what keeps me coming back. It demands attention. It forces humility. It rewards those who slow down, who read the currents carefully, and who learn to see not just water, but the language that it speaks. I've learned to wait when others rush, to watch the shadows, to listen, to move quietly and deliberately. Rivers don't reveal themselves all at once, and neither do the salmon. Both require patience. Fly fishing especially sharpens that patience. There's a romance to it, something that feels like art. The cast itself is as much expression as it is technique, a practiced rhythm unrolling against the air. It looks effortless when done well, but it demands attention to every detail. The weight of the line, the timing of the release, the way the fly lands against the current. There is meditation in that repetition, in the loop of the line, in the pause before it drifts. It teaches you to find calm in motion, to focus without force. But salmon will humble you no matter how careful you are. They'll shatter rods, snap lines, chew the skin from your hands. They fight with a kind of wild clarity, reminding you that this is their world, not yours. Every fish landed feels like a gift, not an achievement. There are moments when the salmon humble me in ways I can't forget. I've felt rods bow to the breaking point, reels seize as the line strips away faster than I can follow. I've lost fish that tore through me like storms, leaving me standing in the river, breathless and beaten. I've walked away bleeding, my palms raw from their teeth, my pride checked by something stronger than I was. Those moments remind me why I keep coming back. Not because I always win, but because the fight matters. Because humility is part of the exchange. Every loss teaches something patience cannot. Some days, I choose gear rods. You can't be a one-trick angler. Conditions change, and the river doesn't bend to your preferences. Heavy wind makes fly casting a mess, so I adapt. I carry barbless hooks because laws require it, and because it's right. Regulations aren't annoyances. They are covenants. They remind me that this is a privilege borrowed, not owned. I keep what I've earned, and I release what must go on. I check hands carefully. If eggs press out, I let them go on to finish their purpose. If the fish is firm, I may keep it. If it has already spawned, it may not be for me. But it will still feed someone. Maybe even my dog, who doesn't mind what's left behind. Stewardship is not complicated. It's about respect, about acting with awareness instead of impulse. When you rely on your gear to do more than just look good in the garage, it better work when it counts. I brought the Lasfit X4 air compressor with me on this trip, and let me tell you, I didn't just throw it in the truck to check sponsorship box. I actually use it to inflate my pontoon boat, right here next to the Puget Sound. No wheezing, no overheating, no melting wires, just pressurized competence. The X4 runs a dual-cylinder motor that moves 12.35 cubic feet per minute and hits up to 150 psi. That's enough to fill your off-road tires fast, or, in my case, get a boat on the water without standing around awkwardly pretending to be patient. It's compact, heavy-duty, and clips straight to your truck battery with full-size alligator clamps. None of that 12-volt cigarette lighter nonsense. But let's talk about Lasfit for a second. You might know them for their LED lighting systems, off-road gear, and rugged automotive tech. But they've quietly built a reputation for gear that actually works, not gimmicks. Not emergency use only junk that fails the first time you need it. Real equipment, tested by people who actually go places. The X4 fits that mold perfectly. It's got an all-metal body, an easy-to-read gauge, and a hose long enough to reach all 4 tires without you dragging the compressor like a reluctant toddler. It even comes with its own padded carry bag and gloves, so you're not digging around the cab looking for that one crusty glove from last elk season. It is very fortunate that the water is calm out here because I forgot one of my paddles. So this should be fun. If you're out here enough to need a serious compressor, something that doesn't blink when the job gets real, this one's worth a look. And if you're just here for the jokes, well, it didn't catch fire, that's something. Check out the Lasfit X4 and the rest of their field-tested gear lineup over on their website. Links in the description. Thank you Lasfit for sponsoring this video. Now back to the story. Fall in the Pacific Northwest sharpens more than the air. It sharpens memory. Warm drinks taste better when the wind cuts through your jacket. Comfort becomes a simple fleece, a wool hat, gloves thawing against a cup of coffee. The forest steadily begins to glow with color. Maples burning red, alders turning gold, evergreens standing dark and steady between them. Mushrooms pushing up through the damp soil, filling the woods with quiet abundance. The berries fade, but the rivers swell with life. Every sense is heightened. The smell of rain, the sound of water folding over itself, the sight of mist curling low across the valley. These are the rhythms that shape me, the ones I long for when summer drags on too long. I've fished through snow, through rain that fell in sheets, through mornings when my guides froze solid with each cast. The worse the weather, the more alive it feels. The only thing I resent is heavy wind, because it robs me of fly fishing. But even then, I adapt. When I'm out here, the silence deepens. Every sound becomes sharper. The snap of a branch, the rush of water, the sudden splash of a salmon breaking the surface. To stand in that stillness, line in hand, is to know commitment. To feel that strike in such conditions is to understand reward. Smoking salmon is something my audience sees often, but for me, it's more than just a scene in a video. It is tradition, nourishment, and gratitude wrapped together. The smell of cedar smoke drifting through the trees, the crackle of fire, the sight of flesh turning golden. It feels like a ritual as old as the rivers themselves. I keep salmon in a deep freezer so it stays with me year-round, not just in fall. I eat it at home, prepare it in countless ways, share it with family, even with my dog. It is central to my way of life here in the Northwest. It is food, but it is also story. When I tend the fire, when the smoke clings to my clothes, I feel tied not just to the fish in front of me, but to all the fish before it, to the places they've swam, to the waters that carried them, to the journey that brought them back. There are days when the banks are empty, when I fish alone with only the sound of the current for company. Those are the quietest, most centering moments. The air feels sharper, the water colder, the silence deeper. I cast, retrieve, wait. And in that rhythm, I find calm. Other days, the banks are crowded with other anglers. Strangers trade nods, share jerky from a pocket, pour coffee from a thermos. Conversations rise and fall with the current. Stories of past seasons, jokes, lessons shared between old-timers and kids learning to cast. It's not competition. It's community, however temporary. When the run ends, everyone drifts back to their own lives, but the memory lingers, like a reunion, not with people, but with place. Every fish I keep carries weight beyond its meat. I know the fight it gave me, the pull it came from, the surge of its run, the sound of its splash. That memory flavors the meal as much as the smoke or the seasoning. Sharing it feels like sharing more than food. It feels like sharing a chapter of a larger story. There is no guilt in harvest, only gratitude. And that gratitude deepens each year as I understand more fully how fragile abundance can be. What feels endless one season can falter the next. It only takes a few careless acts, a few reckless hands, to unravel what took centuries to build. That is why I care. That is why I speak up. That is why I remind myself again and again that what I do here matters. The Pacific Northwest has shaped me as much as the rivers have shaped their valleys. The mist that curls off the water in the morning feels like the land itself is breathing. The sight of the Cascades rising against a stormy sky feels like a gift no one can own. I've lived here long enough to know that nothing stays the same. But the salmon's return anchors me. It ties my life to something larger than myself. It teaches me patience, humility, gratitude, and presence. Gratitude is the heart of this story. Gratitude for the rivers that still run, for the fish that still return, for the chance to stand here year after year and be a part of it. I am not the hero of the story. I am a witness, a participant, a steward. My role is not to conquer, but to respect, to only take what I need and not what I can, to leave something better than I found it, to honor the fish we cherish, not only with words, but with actions. If my story ended today, I would want to be remembered not for the number of fish I caught, but for the way I treated them, for showing up, for listening, for caring enough to speak when silence would have been easier, for honoring a cycle that demands humility, patience, and gratitude. Because if the salmon were gone tomorrow, it would be devastating, not just for me, but for every creature, every tree, every river that relies on them. They are tradition. They are legacy. They are proof that beauty and resilience still exists in the wild. And if we are wise, we will learn from them, not just how to endure, but how to give.